this is a show my people believe our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel left out is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WUB. And all the things that will happen and I got blue skies. I love to make people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WUB. Get up, make every day count. Don't waste it, people. Do your part, play a role, get where you need to. You can tune in from work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait? It's a time calling. It's a show with no matter even if you're at home. Just call in. WUB. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WUB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show, my people. Believe our hopes are to needless reason. Nobody feeling about it. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WUB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show, my people. Believe our hopes are to needless reason. Nobody feel left out is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WUB. And all the things that will happen and I got blue skies. I love it that people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WUB. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WUB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show, my people. Believe our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel left out is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build.
Good morning, Belize. Welcome to the WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. Wednesday morning, 19th of March, 2025. And we want to welcome you to the special team Reef Week edition of Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. I'm Mose Hyde, and we are coming to you live from the Spooners Reggae Cafe here in North Front Street, here in Belize City, for the third morning as we celebrate Reef Week 2025. Before we get into all of that, though, there are certain things that don't change. We got to get the warm-ups going. Before we do all of that, we got to welcome you to our house, or at least to the water side here, Halover Creek. And we want to welcome, whether you are listening to Creme Radio, you're watching XTV, you got us on our apps or social media streams, and we want to remind you that we expect that you will subscribe. Make sure you do that, all right? Especially to our YouTube page, so you can get it live and direct right at your fingertips. Right now, we've got to wish you a great start to your Wednesday. We hope that you have great health, your energy level is high, your vibration is positive, and that you will have enough space to work with us this morning and be a part of our conversation. Right now we've got the weather forecast, and it is brought to you, of course, by the National Meteorological Service. We've got forecaster Crystal Rosales.
Fair and mostly dry conditions prevail over the country. In the 24-hour forecast, skies will be mostly sunny today and then clear to partly cloudy tonight. Little or no rain is expected. And then high temperatures for today will reach around 84 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 88 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and then 72 degrees Fahrenheit in the mountains. For tonight, low temperatures will reach around 74 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 68 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and 62 degrees Fahrenheit in the hills. Winds over the open sea will be from the east to southeast at 5 to 15 knots, and then sea conditions will be light chop to choppy, with low tides occurring at 6:28 this morning and at 7:58 tonight. High tides at 12:22 this afternoon and then at 1:57 tomorrow morning. The moon will set at 9:06 this morning and then rise at 10:41 tonight, while sunset will be at 6:03 this evening and sunrise at 5:56 tomorrow morning. In the extended forecast for Thursday and Thursday night, skies will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and the chance for a few more developing over the south. And in the fire risk forecast, the risk for brush or forest fires will be low to medium. And now for the sargassum update. Satellite imagery and surface observations show that sargassum continues to increase over the area. Therefore, the chances of more mats affecting coastal destinations remain high. And this has been this morning's weather report from the National Meteorological Service.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989, Creme FM presents the news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
And we now have some news. Leader of the opposition, Tracy Panton, on Tuesday held a meeting with colleagues to decide the way forward within the United Democratic Party. It started at 1:30 p.m. and ended just before 5. Coming out of the meeting at the Biltmore Hotel in Belize City, Tracy Panton reported that 28 divisions were represented and that their standard bearers have thrown their support behind her. She says she is therefore expected to be endorsed at a national convention. The date will be set in 2 weeks when the National Party Council meets.
What do you expect for that date? Do you expect that you will be challenged?
Absolutely not. That is not the message I received from my colleagues today. We are fully united behind my leadership to move the UDP forward.
So essentially it will be an endorsement convention.
It is a convention that will settle all the leadership ambiguities of the party. It will be done in accordance with the UDP constitution, as we did in October of last year, and then we proceed in getting the work of rebuilding the party under immediate effect. Together, and certainly my esteemed colleague, Honorable Hugo Pat, can speak for himself, we have all agreed, as I said, unanimously, and that charge was led by Honorable Hugo Pat, that we will unite around one leader and we will work, take our time and energy and resources to rebuild the party so we can be the government in 2030.
Will you extend an invitation to Mr. Perryfield?
What sort of invitation do you think I should extend to him?
To maybe rejoin the party, will you embrace him if he asks to come?
He has never been expelled. He has not been effectively resigned in terms of his participation as a member of the UDP. He has not been exiled. Whether he's a part of the party's rebuilding effort will really be up to him. I can say to you that there's going to be a new outlook for the party as it relates to our representation in the Senate. There's going to be a new outlook to the party as relates to the leadership arrangements for the party moving forward. Mr. Perryfield has served in the Senate on behalf of the United Democratic Party. His tenure is now over, and we move forward with fresh, new talent that I believe will bring a lot to the table.
Will an olive branch of any source be extended to Mr. Barrow to play a role in the party moving forward, any at all?
That's not a matter for Tracy Panton. It is a matter for Shine Barrow. It is a matter for the people of Mesop. It's not a matter for Tracy Panton. So healing, I'm sure, as you know, will take time. And we're not going to make any harsh or hard and fast decisions. We are going to allow the time that is necessary to do the steps that we must take to solidify this team and to solidify the United Democratic Party moving forward.
Panton reported that 3 of the claimants in the case brought by Mose Shan Barrow about who is the true UDP are withdrawing their claim. After the meeting, it was also reported that Hugo Pat will remain the first deputy leader of the UDP, while Beverly Williams remains second deputy leader. Here's what Pat had to say about the new direction of the party.
As far as I'm concerned, we only have one leader, and from there we move on. The UDP is united as we speak under the leadership of Madame Tracy Panton, and from there we move on.
And there can be no pressure on you now. In your view, the elections decided everything for the UDP.
The people spoke, and the message was clear. We need to unify, and that unification will only happen under the leadership of Honorable Tracy Panton.
Do you regret the choices that you made to support Shine?
No. The elections actually decided everything. That chapter of our history has closed. That book has closed. We're starting a new one, and from here we're moving forward.
In February,
well, I think it flags to the wider.
Sorry about that. In February, we had reported that the Senate President, Carolyn Trench Sandiford, denied the tabling of the Protocol Definitive Agreement, citing the need to conduct due diligence beforehand. She meant that they had to ensure that there was nothing in the report that could open the government to a lawsuit, as has happened in the past, costing the government taxpayers dollars. Amid the rumors of an early election, the report was submitted on February 6th, just 3 days before what would be the very last Senate meeting. Because of a clause in the Senate standing orders that requires that a report of a select committee be tabled before the end of the parliamentary session, there are concerns that the report won't see the light of the day. On Tuesday, on the sidelines of an event, Senator-elect Janelle Chanona, who was the chairperson of the inquiry, was asked if they believe the report will be tabled.
Well, I think it flags to the wider community a couple things. I think parliamentary-wise, from that angle, that those are areas of the standing orders and the parliamentary rules that we need to look at to make sure that we can be accountable in terms of all committees being able to carry forward with that work. We were certainly very committed to completing our task. It was out of our hands when the parliamentary session would end, but certainly once we learned of that, of really going through every challenge, every hurdle, every obstacle to our preferred timeline, and then making sure in the end that we were committed to delivering on that report. I can't speak to what happened in terms of the rationale over and beyond what's already been shared publicly, but it's really about making sure that the Belizean people know that we completed our task. And I think it's showing the importance of having these exercises more regularly so that we can see, the gaps and address those gaps. But also I think it highlights that there's much to be desired in terms of, as public officials who are collecting a pension, who are, putting themselves up for leadership, that there's a legitimate expectation for that to be reciprocated when there are questions asked. We spent the morning talking about, how do we ensure transparency? How do we help to ensure accountability? And I think now it plays out that Belizean people on a whole need to signal very clearly what changes that this experience has highlighted needs to shift to make sure that this is the last time there was an opportunity to do that.
But now, should the report see the light of day?
My personal opinion is that the Belizean people in some sense of the word, paid for that report. So I think that there should be a delivery of that report. There was a statement made that it was about protecting Belizean taxpayer dollars. But I think if that is the case, there is also an onus that taxpayers' dollars were used and it was public funding. And we have a full budget report included in that draft. So I would certainly hope that from the National Assembly, there is clarity in terms of what can happen next, so that there is that accountability there for how those funds were used and what was the report that was ultimately determined to be quote-unquote safe for taxpayer dollars.
Would you just WhatsApp me a copy now?
I don't know that I am in a position to do that, but that's why I was calling out that the parliamentary rules say that the report is handled a certain way.
Right.
But if it is that we want that is shifted, adjusted, amended so that future reports are not under those same rules, then that is something that we need to look at very seriously, soberly, and make sure that moving forward, what is expected to be available can be available.
Shannon also addressed whether she sees any potential for strengthening of the regulations and standing orders to prevent the stonewalling they faced during the inquiry.
Well, absolutely, and that's why certainly I've repeated that it is an exercise that we should have every single parliamentary session, because I think the more regularly we have a Senate inquiry, given the powers afforded to the Senate to be one of those rare, unique government unicorns that can conduct an inquiry into public business, I think we need to have that power be exercised so that it can be as dynamic and it can reflect. And certainly these exercises give us the opportunity to flag gaps and things that we identify as an quote-unquote issue, so that we can get those amended. But if we're not using that that power and that core function, then until these things come up, then we have all of these scenarios play out. So to answer succinctly, yes, I think it does give us an opportunity to have a retrospective, look at what could have happened differently, look at what could have been done to alleviate some of that, as you said, the obstacles and the challenges that the inquiry faced. But if memory serves, this was only the third or fourth inquiry in the history of the democracy. So I would say it's a quote-unquote success, even that it went through to fruition. Could things have been handled differently? Absolutely. And that's now on all of us to identify what we need to make sure the next inquiry committee does not have to experience, and what we're learning from all of these committees. And I will tell you, the whole component of getting statements and material out to the witnesses was based on a previous inquiry to make sure that people had natural justice and due diligence and an opportunity to review statements to make sure that they didn't have any, they were given an opportunity to respond to any statements made by anybody else. So every Senate inquiry has been a learning experience, and I certainly think that this was also a rich opportunity and we can glean and learn from that for the next one.
The National Evangelical Association of Belize, NEAB, the Belize Council of Churches, and the Belize Association of Evangelical Churches yesterday announced that Louis Maximo Wade Jr. has been selected as the senator who will represent the churches in Belize. In a statement, they noted that over 240 pastors across the country endorsed Wade's appointment to the post. They are quoted saying, "We are confident that Louis Wade Jr. will discharge his duties in the Senate with excellence, wisdom, and significant contribution as he has done throughout his entire career as an exemplary servant leader in Belize." Wade is well known in the country for both his religious leadership as well as his media presence. He is the manager of Shamak Productions, the parent company of Plus TV, where Wade is the host of the morning TV show Rise and Shine. Bishop Alvin Bengushe was the previous church senator. The day after general elections held on March 12th, the Governor General had a Gazette notice published outlining protocols for the appointment of temporary senators. These are of concern to those who would potentially hold the seat of senators, not only because we are told there was no consultation, but also because they considered that the notice time required is prohibitive in the event of an emergency travel or illness. The protocol requires that the request for the appointment be issued 3 clear days before a meeting. For her part, the senator-elect for the network of NGOs, Janelle Chanuna, has said she would have appreciated consultation, but says she is in favor of streamlining things.
To be fair to the BNN, since 2016, there has been a very structured, very formal approach that we've adopted. I can certainly appreciate the importance of streamlining that and standardizing it. I am not aware of a conversation being had with stakeholders, or as you say, representatives of the different entities that engage in terms of advising on temporary senators. But I certainly appreciate the logic of it. I will always be a advocate for having a conversation to make sure that any confusion is cleared up, or any, there isn't an opportunity for anybody to say that this was undermining or attacking, or I would have appreciated a conversation just so that there was awareness of it formally, if you will.
Is it intentionally meant to exclude or undermine the social partners?
I don't know. You would have to ask the drafters of
How do you
that
interpret
SI.
it then?
For us, like I say, I think really and truly there should be a parliamentary calendar where everybody knows when a meeting is coming up. Because if you know that there will be a meeting on March 31st and I don't know that I am not going to be here, or God forbid I get the flu the 29th or the 28th, then there is a way that you can react and you can plan. But if you only find out about meetings at the last minute, it's very hard to plan around that. And I do know, and credit where it is due, the office has been good about calling out, please, as soon as you know, prepare as soon as you can. So I do think this is a legitimate attempt to, as I said, streamline the process and standardize it. Could it have been the benefit of further input and further recommendation? Yes, but that's water under the bridge now if there's already an SI signed. So I would certainly hope that if there's a way to make it even more user-friendly and to ensure that no disenfranchisement or no mischief can be done with that, then yes, I would think that would be open to review.
And that is the end of our morning news update inside the WUB Wake Belize Morning Vibes. We will take a small break. When we come back on the other side, we'll open up Reef Week WUB conversation right here from Spooner's Reggae Cafe, Northfront Street, Belize City.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989.
All right, welcome back. WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes, where we want to be. Celebrating Reef Week with a pan of water side, squinging between Northfront Street and Haluva Creek, a place called Spooner's Reggae Cafe, formerly called Spooner's Cafe. And again, we just want to acknowledge the management for giving us this accommodation, and as well for providing timely water and sometimes too strong coffee. And we also want to, the coffee get mellowed out, great. Let me just acknowledge the sponsors here for Reef Week. Atlantic Bank, Benny's Home Center, Central Bank of Belize, CG United, Freetown Drug Store, Port of Belize, Wildlife Conservation Society, Oceana, Marlon Castillo Quality Meats, Human Dignity Trust, Design Depot, and World Wildlife Fund. They're all making our coverage possible this week. This is an annual treat that we get out of the studio and we honor and celebrate this fantastic treasure of ours, pay homage and tribute and praise it, and then talk about all the peripheral concerns and issues and topics that you know are normally related with that each weekday morning. So we kind of shift the flavor of WB a little bit, alter it, but then we do it with great cause and purpose. This morning we have one of the founding members of Reef Week in Belize, representing Oceana, Vice President, and also Senator Janelle Chanona.
Good morning, Belize. Thank you for having me. I want to big up WB because what you're not saying is that WB and yourself has also been a critical component to...
No, man, we don't have founding member too.
That's what I'm saying, the longevity of Reef Week, and I think we need to remember that, and I'll credit you, and I think that needs to be, as you say, we need to big you up on that. And I think but in all seriousness, if we don't have a strong media partner like you to make sure that we're reinforcing the need to do this and make sure that we don't take nothing for granted, including our relationships. So I think it's important to
it's a good way.
Respect.
It's a good way to start, Senator, with the buttering and the nicing up of the situation. I like that.
I'll go to the other side. Don't worry.
It's a good start. It's a good start. Oceana, Vice President of Operations, tell us about Oceana in 2020. No, we're not start there. Maybe we start with Reef Week.
Yes.
And what are the major activities and the major vibes of Oceana as a part of celebrating Reef Week 2025?
Thanks. Well, I think overall we have to recognize that a lot of things get started off right, and then, pun intended, you drop the water.
Yes.
And I think to the credit of all the organizations who are conservation-based, people-based, anti-plastic-based, that consistency is there. And I think that in itself speaks volumes to the fact that, as you said, championing the reef, championing our reliance on the reef, championing our responsibility to the reef is really what is the commonality, the common thread through all these years. I've been at Oceana since 2014, so talking about 11 years now does not feel that long. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're so grateful as Oceana to be a part of this organization, this committee, this force, this movement. Because that's what we have committed to do, to always stand with Belizeans, to always, amplify, empower, increase the volume on those voices who are calling for us to pay attention to the details and, checking the change and making sure the receipt is right and just showing up, because when we show up, then, we can't fall for anything.
All right. Great intro. For 2025, what are some of the activities that Oceana is actively promoting for Reef Week? I know normally there's a bunch of activities that you guys take the lead on, so could you give me a rundown of that? I've been a no-show at the meeting, so you could help me out here.
Well, I don't want to throw you too far under the bus because we nearly end up on some bus, but we didn't miss you on the reef ride on Saturday.
I walk under the bus. There was no need for Anybody?
Lay down and then tell the boss.
No man, that they had to lay down. You best believe. Tell me.
Yeah, so things kicked off on Saturday, March 15th, with our annual ride to the Reef. So that's been a pilgrimage that we made from Parliament. You know, the National Assembly is under construction.
You just want to show your shape and your conditioning, but
well, all shape and all size and shape and form, right? So we not said a good shape, but it's definitely a shape.
Right.
But yeah, that's really been an awesome way to kick off this year.
Right.
The Reef ride the ride to the Reef has been I would say a key event, and we've been proud of that. And I think, you know, you can speak to the physical investment that one has to make to prepare for that, to participate, to make sure you don't compromise anybody else. And I think that just for us embodies that, you know, physically sometimes you have to put yourself out of the comfort zone, and you have to make sure, you know, when you think about give up, that you keep going, because there are people who count on that, you know, that you just jump in at the back of the vehicle, or, you know, worse, end up in the ambulance. And I think that's really been our thing, that, you know, the camaraderie in a peloton is all of us showing up and helping out, and if you need the lead push, if you need the extra water. So it's really a powerful symbol for us that when we work together, you know, hard breeze, headwind could come in, you know, blistering sun could catch with, rain could catch with. That was not the case this year, but we've had years like that. And it's just for us, and it's one of my favorite events to participate in, of just making sure that we feel that energy together, and pulling into the park is always so, it's a relief, and everybody got in safe, and just really basking in that Belizeanness of, yeah, we did it together, we had fun doing it, and you know, we could still talk about you know, being that way when it comes to our joint agreement that we need to take care of this thing, so this thing could take care of we, ridge to reef, you know, the whole gamut of it, and our role in it. So that was a great way to get started. And then throughout the week we have partnerships with everybody from fishers to teachers to fellow conservationists and scientists, going into classrooms, giving presentations, holding events. Of course, we have cleanups, which the idea isn't to do the cleanup. Aesthetically, that's a benefit, but the idea is to really show people, like, we really have a plastic problem. We really need to say that we can break the plastic habit. We can, you know, there are alternatives. We just have to, like, really work at it, and then it now becomes second nature for you immediately grab that bag, or, you know, to tell the guy at the store, I really don't want that bag, you know. And work together on making sure that, as I said, our individual role in the bigger scheme is highlighted to everybody, so that going into the next year we have a lead difference adding up.
Of course, as we're here sitting, Janelle, we're aware that Oceania has been in the ring taking on heavyweight issues. It came out the gate as a presence in Belize, tackling trawlers, tackling the issue of offshore oil, and has moved on to the single-use plastics. These have been heavy issues, but these fights have also been rather instructive, because even when you are successful, there is a need to babysit that which you have accomplished, because going back way seems to be the easiest thing to do. And so I raise that point because we, as we always do, we can hear murmuring and whispering from those who would wish that some of these things that have been won are not in place. And you experienced that, I believe, under the Bicentennial administration between 2020 and 2025, when you had to kind of clear your throat and raise your voice. But we still hear it to the point where it wasn't even a whisper. We had somebody come on our show and say, well, this is something that we need to do, and, you know, it's going to be there is a growing momentum in some quarters to figure out how they could squeeze out of the little the leash that they're presently in. have you monitored these loud whisperings, and what is the strategy to say remain focused, steadfast, and to make sure that nobody gets out the leash? At least when speaking about get out the leash, we go dig up on the reef.
So, brass tacks, I did listen in to one of your, more than one episode, but the one where the Minister of Blue Economy was talking about the gillnet campaign and the gillnet ban. And I know the Minister have a lot on his plate. I know he have so much thing for remember. So we took it upon ourselves to issue a release. And when I say we, the Coalition for Sustainable Fisheries, Oceana, the Belize Federation of Fisheries, the Belize Game Fishing Association, all these multiple partners that were behind the gillnet campaign, to just remind of the history of it. We have photos with meeting with the minister and his team at the time in their offices on Seashore Drive. We handed over physical copies in binders. We handed over soft copy in a flash drive. Because Mose, like I said, there, as somebody once said long ago, there are lots of balls in the air, and I live this every day, and we're on this every day. So I don't expect everybody to remember chapter and verse the way I do. And if we have to keep repeating that every time something comes up, you know, the court ruled on it in the middle of COVID when, you know, forces who were asserting differently in terms of what the history was came out and tried a legal challenge. And the court said, we find nothing in this. There was a gillnet task force, there was a comprehensive process, there was consultation, and none of their grounds proceeded. And so if we have to keep reiterating, reminding, resharing, then we're prepared to do that. Because at the end of the day, if you are not doing that, then there might be an attempt for anybody to play revisionist.
Yeah.
And I use that as an example because you know how it is, where there's always something, right? And things, people might say, oh man, until you said that, I never remember that happened, and I never remember so and so related to so and so. And that's just, as we were talking earlier, that's just human nature sometimes, right? Where we have to show up. And this place in particular in the last administration was so pivotal because this is where we had to launch the renewed petition campaign against offshore oil. And I signed the very first petition on one of these tables, and then subsequently we submitted 22,090 official petition from registered voters, where it was a very painstaking process to verify all those signatures via government websites. But we made that investment because, again, Mose, if we're not showing up, if we're not getting the nuts and bolts and the details, then it might be that, oh, you don't have that support. And we are certainly going to continue to document the call from Belizeans, because it's not enough, I accept, it's not enough for me to say, well, everybody to call me to rail up about this thing. So it's like, okay, if you feel like I have to show up with receipts, then I'm prepared to do that. And I think increasingly, as we look at everything that's been happening from Wilbauer to the Hopkins residents to most recently the Placencia residents, I think people are really desperate for decisive and timely action because they're living it. If my beach is compromised, that me will have to figure out, like, immediately I will be the first person directly impacted. And that what I'm sensing is that they're showing up in these places and in these ways because it's like somebody has to get it. Like I can't sit down home and just kind of, well, I hope, you know, so and so show up, and I hope, you know, this happen. And we've gone past that, I think. And I really look forward to new chapters in this new administration. We're seeing the cabinet being sworn in. Now we'll see the CEOs, and really working with our government partners in really earnest and sincere, meaningful collaboration and cooperation, because we have to keep the big picture in frame. If we don't make sure that we develop and we grow and we protect, it's to our own detriment. Like legit our own detriment. There is no sensationalizing that, there is no exaggerating that. And I think what we're increasingly seeing with everybody registering what the climate crisis is doing and what all these other factors we're seeing, sargassum, everything else, is like, it's real. And I need nobody to come and tell, I'm seeing this, I'm feeling it, and I feel the sweat that drip down my back when I brush my teeth, you know, like, this is internalized in a way that, you know, I think it's really registering. And so I'm really, you know me, the eternal optimist. I'm really looking forward to how we keep that big picture in frame.
No, Oceana is an international organization that reaches in and operates within the domestic space to...
I could correct one little thing.
Please go ahead.
So we establish offices in different countries.
Yeah. And then those offices...
I work for Oceana in Belize.
Okay.
So we are registered
But,
Belizean NGO.
okay, but it's a part of a international...
Yeah, we don't fundraise at Belize.
Okay, yeah, in a part of an international conglomerate, right? I'm using that term loosely.
Yes, yes. Loosely.
So, yeah. So the point I wanted to make was that, you know, it has a hub and then they create these multiple hubs. And then within those, within the spaces of these communities, nations, it operates, advocates, have these campaigns and tries to create the movements that really and truly are the best case scenarios for especially marine interests. It's built around them.
Totally marine focus.
So,
and the focus of those policy goals are from those countries. So when we, as you said, loosely come into the space, it's not us coming in saying, oh, by the way, it looked like this and looked like that. It's Mose, what happened and what you think we need to look at.
Okay, so that's the model, right?
Yeah.
And that's to my point. Now, the biggest threat, as from at least my vantage point, to the well-being of the marine interests is the reality that climate change, global warming is wreaking havoc, and unchecked is going to completely make what we experience when we leave shore be unrecognizable to the next generation of Belizeans. This is not now an agitation that is happening. This is not now a reality that's happening within these communities. This is now this global reality. And unfortunately, it has taken a turn for the extreme worse, where there's now a raging assault on the very infrastructure that enables the science. That's where we are in 2025. Funding, personnel, it's not just withdrawing from agreements. The present wind that has blown in Washington is about completely unplugging. And we could say, well, that is not, that they're outside are we, but the reality is that we have depended on that science. We depend on these agencies to provide the updates that at the very least can be used to win arguments, to create, hopefully, change. So all that is to say, how does Oceana adjust and how does it interact with, especially at the level of the political directorate, for them to respond to the time, because the time was already an emergency and now it has gone completely over the cliff. I mean, I'm not dramatizing this reality. This is absolutely how perilous it is.
When you started out and you said this is a challenge, I agree. And I don't even say climate change anymore. I say climate crisis. Because if we're not talking about things in the parameters that we need to talk about, then maybe you think that does not change. We just change clothes. We just have to, you know, do these adaptation things, and then we'll be okay. But when we're in a crisis, we move with a more, more alacrity. But I think what I would say to you is, I agree with you fully. That's first and foremost where our threat, collective threat lies. But to me, my biggest fear, my number one is people feeling pessimistic or cynical or giving up. Morning. Last, I feel like some other people with a hi. But I know this is it. No, but I really think we have to look at people feeling so overwhelmed and people feeling really that, you know what, I can't do anything. And like I said, just giving up and feeling like it's all, like you said, we fall off at the cliff already, the reef done dead. And this sense of like it's over. Because I think if people get there, then how do we convince them as Belizeans that we can do something? We do have a role to play. We have an opportunity. Yes, we missed the time, maybe the perfect time, but you know when the next best time is? Today. And really trying to make that gap that, like, we still have to show up now. There's still things that we can do now. And if little Belize can do it, then, even when the geopolitical forces are going against us, and we see this every couple decades where there's these huge swings, that Belize can really remain that, rather than say, well, everybody else to go this way. So we know that we can remain our independent, Kakatarili self, that, be like, but no, we want to chart our own way forward, and we will make sure that we make the decisions that keep our people safe and our people in the best position possible. And we'll make the decisions where we don't have the science about, we don't know what we need to do. It's really just the political will. Because if we can't make that initial gap, then we can't even begin to talk about the science that's saying what we have to look forward to, or sadly not look forward to, in terms of what our expectation will be when we go offshore. And so that's why events like Reef Week, like World Oceans Day, why we big up so much of our marine resources in September, our most patriotic month, and why it's on every single day on social media, in every press release, is because if we're not clued in and giving people a reason to say, okay, well, you can be the source of hope. When everything looked like it done gone to hell in the handbasket, like we want to be the ray of sunshine, we want to be the ray of hope, and we want to show up, and by our showing up, show that we're still there, we're still at the table. Because I tell you, the absolute most terrifying word, one of the most terrifying words to me right now, is this concept of balance. Have you heard people talk about, well, we have to strike on balance? I don't know how you balance murder and rape. And when we denude our resources and we rape our habitats and we murder and destroy our ecosystems and therefore the goods and services, I don't know how you balance that with something else. Are you there in this long enough? You've been to a COP.
Many. I've been to
many. You know that we've been talking about sacrificial sites and sacred zones and planning for decades under the age. But it's really that, like, we really need to start owning that we have to make some decisions. As much as we pay attention to the broader outside world, but as Belize, like, I don't know how much more we need for here, protect their action.
I hear you.
Not tell me about.
I hear you, and it's not that which you're advocating for is not important. And I will push back, however, on the suggestion that declaring a code red is some kind of, you would say, your traditional cynicism. I think that you declare a code red not because you want to overwhelm people into some kind of, to resign and to just accept, well, here comes oblivion. It is to say that in the midst of a code red, we then turn our strategy page to another, we go to another one.
Yeah. But I think we're doing the same thing.
And no, we're not.
Tell me why.
For this reason. Because what we are dealing with right now is we want to promote changes within ourselves. We want to make the adjustment. We want to make sure that we start to act in a way that is consistent with our rhetoric, and that's behavior on the ground. We want to protect mangrove. We want to
enforce.
Act. We want to make sure that we're enforcing what we're enforcing. But where we are right now, especially when one considers that this is not we're not in the first quarter of this game.
Not at all.
And the time is running out based on all the science available time to prevent some of the more catastrophic consequences. Some scientists even are suggesting that we have run out of time.
Yes.
So I am not, again, overblowing reality here. I'm saying here it might not be good to hear that we have a Category 5 coming our way, Janelle.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It is not cynical to say it can't be business as usual if we have Category 5 winds blowing around here. We know what I want to look.
But that's not cynicism. That's reality. I don't call that cynicism.
So if you have a situation where, look at all these boats are looking for marine product.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marine product will be looking for cooler waters.
Yeah.
We will have this. We will have this exaggerated impact because of the things that we survive often because we were coastal.
No, tropical fish stocks.
That's where we are.
Absolutely.
So I'm saying here that just as how we have you have a platform at Oceana.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have a significant megaphone, and you have used it to challenge the political directorate on what they need to do here. But that I feel that what is especially required now is for that same energy to be brought to the political directorate, for them to reassess the way they are engaging globally, because while I accept that you do have a natural cyclical nature of how people go from, to being focused to being unfocused.
Absolutely.
This is beyond that normal cycle.
Yeah. And for the record, we're 100% the same. I think I hear you when you say that when you think people call you cynical for saying it's a code red. That's my reality. That's why I just tell you I call it the climate crisis, because that's what it is. What I'm talking about with cynicism is misinformation and disinformation, deliberately trying to skew things so that when the fishermen come back, they tell you, I have to go deeper, I have to go further, I have to go longer, and it gets smaller. And somebody jump up and say, no, but everything good. See the numbers, it's great. We don't have no problem. Don't listen to them people, then they talk craziness and they want to hype you up about the wrong thing. That's, to me, not only irresponsible, it's disinformation. And we see that playing out where they are trying to tell you, not believe what your eyes say, no, think you to hear what you think you to hear. These are not even AI. These are like, I don't know, smoke mirrors, something.
But Janet, we have had even our journalists be chastised and even be accused of being conveyors of mistruths.
And that is my
But where was the solidarity to stand behind him? I did not experience the solidarity that was required based on the fact, and it's not just because those journalists, a couple of them are associated with us. The reality is that I did not hear anybody step up and say, no, cut that out. I instead heard the same amplification for bull. In fact, there was more airtime, more camera time given to complete untruths rather than to deal with what was being put forward.
And Mose, it is, and I think for the last 11 years, I think that's been, I don't want to call it even the challenge, but again, the reality that we have this space as Oceania to be this advocate and to call out those things, because you know what people will say, and they're honest, and at least give them credit for candor. If I come out and I stand with UNO, I want to get my permits where I need taken away. I want to lose my subvention. We've heard people say about co-management agreements then coming under threat or well placed. I tell my colleagues all the time, if the moment we confuse access for influence, it's over. And this divide and conquer tactic has been an effective tactic because it's still effective. Because they can still control it. And we need to talk brass tacks about these things. That how is it that you're telling me in our most recent experience, the world's, as somebody said eloquently, the Einstein of fisheries comes to Belize and says, Belmopan, we have a problem. And we tell that man he don't know what he to talk about. And I don't know how you try come back and say, well, it's not really about you, but this you know, other forces, whatever, because I don't know how that reconcile. Like how do we say to that person, you don't know what you to talk about, instead of thinking for one hot second, okay, tell me what you're talking about. Can we look at how we can figure out, you know, how you land at those conclusions, how we do that. We're not even prepared for having a conversation. And I get it. There's a fear there of, as you said, what the code read and its immediate implications are if we're talking about things like collapse and immediate displacement of tens of thousands of Belizeans. That is very scary. But if we know come to Jesus and realize, pardon the expression, that if we don't own these conversations and actively look at what the numbers are telling us and reconcile with the fact that we have to make some decisive actions now based on the science that we have now, I don't know how that's not the first action. But I can't explain for anybody else, and they can do their own explaining. I can only say that's where we persist and we continue to empower and amplify those voices who are calling for those things, because you know what is true? Being here in the corner, being like, I told you so, 3 years from now, that's ain't gonna cut it. We have to be in the thick of it, and we will continue to be in the thick of it, saying, we need to listen to what the fishers are saying. We need to look at what the science is saying. We need to hear what the housewives are saying and what the restaurateurs are saying. Can you imagine we're importing seafood and trying to serve that off to people that this is something where we just catch this morning? I mean, it's really, and that's 5 years ago. I don't even want to remember what the numbers may be now, but it's really that we have to. And that's why I said the disinformation and the attempt of somehow feeling that rather than address our fears by turning on lights and, you know, lift up mattress and clear out and finding the boogeyman or finding, you know, whatever it is that's causing the fear of, you know, closing the door, locking the door and say nobody going in that room. And if you think about open that door, me and you on quarrel. That's not my reaction. And everybody responds to crisis and fear. You know, some people, you see it all the time, these anthropological studies of how people react. But we are really calling that this is going to be a very tough conversation, but it's a conversation that we have to have. If we're serious about keeping people fishing, of depending on these traditional marine-based livelihoods, of making sure people have dignity in the workplace, whether it's on a boat or in this restaurant or out on the street, like that is real.
So we have these moments of triumph, which each triumph I have applauded, saluted, and they deserve maximum respect. We just had Monday Marco Lopez come in and speak a bit about good news. The Caribbean reef shark, the numbers are looking better. So it's not that we're in the business of hunting for that which is unpleasant. It's just that the unpleasant is loud and it's real.
It's real.
I said last week during an election coverage that I heard a podcaster say that cynicism is the black lung disease for journalists. It's the inevitable outcome of finding out and knowing about a lot of things. In this instant, Janelle, we have run a reputable organization out of the country. Summit is gone. We have dismissed, as you mentioned, somebody who is globally recognized as the leading expert in assessing fishing stock that is of the ones that we have. And we have done it because, let us call it what it is. The reason why we are doing it is because it's politically expedient to do that. The votes that we have to make sure we get to make sure that our policies can be inclusive to give out license hand over fist, and our reluctance to say try control the amount of recreational fishing where they go on to protect the people where they make one survival off it is not good for politics. And so we have to, but that's an issue that's still dwarfed by the fact that the demands on our leadership in 2025 at the level of not just beliefs but how we are coordinating with other like nations has to match, has to rise to the occasion of what is coming down. Yeah. And so it is not to put the burden on Oceania. It is to say that all of us have to respond and say, listen, you can't say the same old thing now.
Yeah.
You can't just say, oh, the wait for got a cup because you want to see how much couple of millions you could get. That can't be your game plan. The game plan can't just be, I want to try to figure out how much money we could get towards because we need this. No, your game plan has to be is how you want forge together the kind of alliances and how you want maintain the kind of credibility where we are need for have to challenge the most powerful people who are gone mad.
Yeah.
And to me, that is what Code Red means to me.
No, I think we're all there. I really and truly, and I include the decision makers in that I can't see how we can be anywhere else. And I look and I was absolutely sincere, and I want to reiterate that we look forward.
I've been ignoring my call. I have a call, and then I have to.
Sure.
Okay, we've kind of violated.
We missed it. Oh my! But so, no, it's really that. Just to make the point that we have to have that plan. We have to feed into that plan collectively, and we have to make sure we're all part of that decision because collectively, all of we won't get impacted by those decisions.
Carl, you will have to be quick because I got to go to break. WUB, good morning.
Well, Mose, you know to this way, but I'm a big quick.
You could call back, brother, but I don't have a lot of time, and I know that you are not a man. You are not a man for short presentations. Thank you.
The person who has still there with you?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, call back. You could still make your point. It's been a long time since you have been on the WUB in Reef Week. I actually had to. I had to put my foot down. So I'm glad that you've come you've made a visit this morning. Obviously, this is a conversation that has to continue. It is Reef Week. Yes. We are celebrating and creating this consciousness of from the ridge to the reef, building resilience. And in between the ridge and the reef, resilience will have to bail in at Belmore Pond.
Yes, yes.
That's one of the most important places for the resilience get.
Absolutely.
And so...
that's where we're office there.
Absolutely. I want to, again, thank you for joining us.
No.
And a happy Reef Week. you guys will be in San Ignacio.
Yes, the Reef Week Fair is at the Falcon Field.
And what can folks in San Ignacio expect?
To be informed, to be entertained,
gonna be a booth?
to win cool prizes, to, yeah, just be empowered and enlightened. But I want to say, Mose, me not coming here is by design on a regular basis, because I really need, as we were talking about off air, younger people really need to come into the space. I have the benefit of other platforms, and we've built our team, and I really want to take advantage of every opportunity to get those younger folks in the space, having the conversations. They could say things sometimes far better than me, because there's no baggage, there's no, you know, they have a different way of speaking.
I hear all of that.
Just respect the management approach.
I hear all of that. Respect.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, though, and thanks again for doing this, because I really feel that the WUB Reef Week broadcast is a critical component of the activities.
Even though that no come wrong way, but we are live with it. We have to continue with work.
No excuse for not front street.
No excuse for not front street. Guess what? We're going to take a break, go to 2 cents cam, take a first break of the morning. We return. There's more Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes coming your way.
You're watching WB and this is XTV, all right? Trust me, I want to find out how long is the Barrier Reef. So I want to find out people in 2 cents, and the best way if I can find out that, they're in a tourist village.
180 miles, the Barrier Reef.
That's your 2 cents?
That's my 2 cents.
Same question there, miss. You know how long the Barrier Reef?
180 miles. 175 miles long.
Yeah, really tall. Do you know how long the Barrier Reef?
I'm not quite sure, brother.
All right. Well, I don't expect better for you, because you're not a tour guide. Let me tell you, you're not a tour guide like that.
Well, I know the sea. I should know.
Exactly.
Being a tour guide, I should know.
You should know. You're fair.
But it's something that I don't usually frequent.
I catch you off guard.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think right now, though. I think it's like
I'm going to come back. I'll let you think.
I think it's like what? Because if you check the coastline,
yeah,
it is about, I might be wrong.
Yeah.
But I think it's like 155 miles, if I'm not mistaken.
Close. You know how long the Barrier Reef? No. You don't know? All right, good. You know how long the Barrier Reef?
Yeah, 190 miles long.
How long the Barrier Reef?
No, boy.
To say question there, you know how long the Barrier Reef?
190 miles.
That is it. How long? Off your head.
Off of my head, I can't get direct. I never made direct, so.
We are working that.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right, that's good. I'll take that. To say question there, how long you think the Barrier Reef?
186 miles.
Welcome back to the WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's Wednesday morning of Reef Week. We are at the Spooners Reggae Cafe, formerly known as Spooners Cafe, sandwiched between North Front Street and the Halover Creek. Dana Belize City, of course. The first Reef Week we did was in Belize City. Very first Reef Week coverage where we do. So yes, over the years we have gone to very exotic places as a part of our Reef Week voyage, but we come back home, we did a yard, right a yard, well, almost a yard, we don't do a zinc. The conversations have primarily been around marine issues, under the theme, of course, building resilience from ridge to the reef. And let me just take this opportunity before I introduce my next guest to give respect to the sponsors who are making this coverage possible. And those sponsors include Atlantic Bank, Benny's Home Center, Central Bank of Belize, CG United, Freedom Drugstore, Port of Belize, Wildlife Conservation Society, Oceana, Mullen Castillo, Quality Meats, Human Dignity Trust, Design Depot, and World Wildlife Fund. Thank you very much for supporting Reef Week on Creme Radio and XTV. We are a founding member of Reef Week celebration, something that we are very proud of. We did not just come to it. We are Banya. And now we have one of our collaborators in the past. You see, we bias to people where show we good vibes. When people show we good vibes, we don't forget. And the folks at TASA have collaborated with us. Even they had we out that turnip for one whole week. And that time so that every day we eat fried fish. Gart, every day we eat fried fish. Morning and evening. Fresh. Yes. We have with us the Executive Director of TASA, Valimar Andrade Dafanya, but the man that is defender at TASA, Turnif Atoll Sustainable Association. I think I got that right.
Yes.
Greetings and welcome to the show.
Greetings, Mose. First, I want to thank you because I think you have been the defender of all of this marine space, asking the critical questions.
I had one of the big mouth there. One off.
Yeah, I think big mouth, but also asking the right questions. I think that we need to answer for the future. I also want to thank my team who has been doing all of this work, because I just talk about it, They do the real work on the ground. We have 16 conservation officers, 21 field people that are doing the science and education, the people that will be at the Reef Fair from our adaptive management program, our finance program and accounting people who make sure that we account for all of this grant money at the end of the day and how we do this. But I also want to thank you because you have been one of the people who have been pushing, and I think Belize is the most exotic place, Belize City, actually. When you come to think about it.
This is extremely exotic where we are right here. Yeah. What I recall from our conversation the last time, unfortunately it's been too long since we've spoken, is that yes, you are. I've not known you to be somebody where even occupy yourself with or affording any moment to be pessimistic. You're about the grind. You're about we have to find solutions. We have to make alliances. We have to ally ourselves with business, corporate. We have to streamline, be like more. We have got to see energy where maybe one private sector company will have that kind of mindset. You have Whippert, you are very aggressive with initiatives, thinking out of the box, and I really respect that. So now I have to start off by asking you, because I can't imagine that you have not been on the grind, coming up with new ways for incorporate people enabling initiatives where married with environment in our way where sustainable and just.
Yeah, so I mean, we have been doing some innovative initiatives. Mose, one of them right now is that we are testing smart with fishers, right? And it was interesting, right? Because
I mean, you had internet that turned off before Starlink.
Yes.
That'll tell you how you think.
Definitely, and we still have it, and we don't have Starlink yet.
I don't know that Starlink.
But we through the IDB lab funds, and also with support from the Belize Fund, we have been working with fishers, and it was interesting that we piloted teaching fishers smart. So we had a mix of older fishers and younger fishers who we taught how to, because basically you're using a phone, it has an app where you upload what you're catching, that kind of stuff. But I walked into the session a couple of times, and it was interesting how the fishers were uptaking this. We have a few that have fallen out, but we have an incentive program depending on how much catch data you supply to us, what you get as an incentive to be able to do this. But what we want to prove is that the fishers can do this. And we have been getting consistent and quality data from fishers, right, to be able to do. I think it is important to demonstrate, because we always think that fishers, of how will we allow fishers to participate in this, or how will they take charge, because they're the ones who should really be taking charge of the fishing industry at the end of the day. And so by them supplying the data, we can put management intervention recommendations to the floor. But also in the middle of all of this, we had a grounding in Turn-F, and who did I get that report from? On Smart, from a fisher, from one of the same fisher that we just trained, sent in that report and said there's a grounding. That's how we knew what the name of the boat was, and some particulars of the event, including videos and everything, because the fisher was reporting this to us. So they're not only collecting data about fishing, but also about other things that are occurring in the space where they do their work. Because this is one of the things that people have to understand. This is a space where in Turn-F you have 1,500 fishers that are licensed to operate there. We see about 500 of those on a regular basis. We do about 4,000 patrol hours per annum, and we have about 2,500 contacts with fishers every year, right? So the fishing community is very important to us at the end of the day, but we are still also trying to figure out how to engage. Our outreach program has been out there just before the close of the lobster to be able to communicate with the fishers and understand, okay, what do they know? What information are they grasping? How can we develop something where we communicate on a stronger basis what the legislation is and how the details of the legislations and what role can they play? But we are now coming to a point in our fishery where we have to seriously engage the fishers from a point of view of, okay, what will we do about the conch fishery? What will we do about the lobster fishery? What will we do about the finfish fishery? And we will have to have some serious discussion, because the fishing pressure is high, and we have to discuss, okay, things like, people, repeat offenders. What do we do with repeat offenders? Because the information is there, and the legislation allows certain actions to be taken, but we have to get to the point where those actions are taken, and allow the fishers then to make recommendations as well. Okay, and then how are we going to work if we see a declining fishery? What is the position of the fisher? What are they going to recommend on how we do this? Because at the end of the day, when that fishery dies, then all their jobs are lost at the end of the day. And fishing, affects about 15,000 people in this country, right? The fishers and their extended families who eat from this fishery. And many communities. For us, we have Shanush, Capablanc, Sarteneja, Belize City, San Pedro, Key Carker, all the way in the south, who come to Turn-F, right, at the end of the day to fish. And so the extent of the impact can be very great. So we really have to make some decisions. So we're trying to use some technology to work with the fishers, but we're also on the ground in contact with them, working and asking, okay, what are the next steps here?
All right. No, I said to you before we came on here that we have been having very active conversations with one of the key fisher folk stakeholder, the BFF, and advocating on behalf of fishers. It's very clear to us that a significant divide has come up between fisher folk and the conservationist community. There is a feeling that they're an afterthought, and they often will look at the fact that while they have been willing to be supportive of the various conservationists, NGOs, that when they are voicing their concerns, they don't feel like that type of solidarity has been matched. And they have also ended up in a situation where there's a whole dispute over what science we are going to use when it comes to establishing what's the state of the finfish, lobster, conchs stock, and what science are we going to look at. And we've seen them collide with the regulator in this regard. How do you see a way out to kind of create the kind of relationship that I feel has to happen, where it's built on mutual respect and trust?
So first of all, I think like our model for TurnF includes the fishers on the board, right? So we have the northern and national fishermen rotate every 2 years; they change, and then we have an individual fisher. At this time, it's Dale Fairweather who is represented on there, who is on the board to make decisions. And I think that is an important role that fishers have to play in all NGOs, in all operations of the NGOs. They have to be in a decision-making and advisory position, right? And that is one of the reasons why I like the managed access program, because it involved the fishers basically recommending, okay, who should be allowed into a fishing space and who should not be allowed in a fishing space. Because if you're a fisher, Mose, and you would say, well, why? I have seen Valdemar over and over doing a lot of foolishness, right, at the end of the day. And when you check the record, yes, I have been taken to court so many times, then that's a way to ensure that we are engaging, and the BFF or whoever it is at the end of the day to be able to come into, to be able to be a part of the management of this space, right? For me, I think it is important that we are, look, at the end of the day, only the fishermen know if they catch fish, you know, right, at the end of the day. So getting data from them, and that they're able to say, okay, yes, your data matches with our data, because we are collecting data with our science people. We are also collecting data from fishers themselves, and so if those two information, they should be corroborating at the end of the day. I don't see how they will be different, you know. And so there has to be an agreement very quickly. This is not something we can wait for the next 10 years to do. Right? There has to be an agreement very quickly as to how we will reconcile and say, okay, this is how what we are doing. It troubles me, because when I got into this business and up to now, it has never been about the trees, the fish, and the birds for me, or the jaguars. Right? It has always been about we are a natural resource-based economy. And how do we ensure that this works for our people? Imagine how rich we are in terms of natural resources, Mose. And if your fishers are saying they feel disenfranchised, then we have to find a way to ensure that they are brought into the mix, that they are participating in making the decisions at the table, and that they are, and I said that they might agree with everything, because you know some stuff will be stark. And we will have to make some tough decisions as to what you do in certain areas. But I think that they should always be a part of how we are making this decision, and they should be close at hand. We work for the fishers, right? Remember, marine reserves are fisheries management tool. So basically, we are there to ensure that we are enforcing the fishing regulations, enforcing the tourism regulations, because all right, so commercial fishers face a certain threat, but also recreational fishing has its own threat, right, from a cumulative effect, because if every recreational fisher goes out there, every tourism stakeholder goes out here and takes 20 pounds or 100 pounds of fish, it's also having an impact on the fishery. Right? Whether it's conch, lobster, and finfish. So the threat is coming from both sides, and so we have to see how do we manage all of this. The real issue, and why I have always and why I've built a team that is hunkering down and trying to do the job and raising the funds to do this, and we can talk a little bit about the funds to do this because that's a big conversation at this point in time. You know, it is important that we are able to show what the science is, right? That we work with the fisheries department to agree that this is what we need to do, because at the end of the day, right, whether we like it or not, we are co-managers with the fisheries department. At the end of the day, that decision can only be made by the state, right? But it doesn't mean that it can't be informed by the NGO and the fishers as important stakeholders to managing this resource. And that is why I think that fishers need to be a part of the decision-making process at all costs, right? So in the end, we have to, it is super important that the fishers understand that we're working on their behalf, that the door is always open, and I've always had that policy where fishers can come in and we can work things out. There are a lot of other things at play in these marine areas that we have no control over. Climate change is one of them, right? And this has been the hottest January that we have ever had, and so we have to take note of that. Right?
You mentioned the funding. Explain to me why you think that that is of, well, I mean, funding is always critical, in anything and all aspects of life, but tell me about the funding and how you see that working out.
Okay, sure. So I think we have been living in a fallacy for many, many decades in how much work this really is and how much it takes to fund this work, right? For TASA, we have 4 core programs, right? We have the enforcement program, which is running about $1 million, right? We have Belize dollars. We have our adaptive management program, which is running probably about half of that, which is our science program. We have our outreach and engagement program, which is our education and outreach program, which is, we're just rebuilding that program, again, because of finances, you know, at the end of the day, but I suspect in a good year, you would probably run about 250, 300,000, right, to be able to do this. And then we have our financial sustainability program, which seeks to create unrestricted revenue from tourism and other areas to be able to fund this. There are some critical things that have happened in the Trump era, right, where all of these US-based funding have been cut. That is going to have a significant impact. In fact, I'm going to a meeting after this with the Marine Protected Areas Network to discuss some of that, because how are we going to fill that gap? And that has consequences for salaries for some people that work in the space and to try to manage this area, right? We have to look at, you know, if we're going to do this, how do we do it right? You know, what many people don't understand is when you employ, like in my case, 35 people to do the work that we do, and these are you know, 21 of those 35 people work in the field to do this work, right? And to be able to ensure that, because management is key. Marine spaces are not easy to work. If your engine broke down, you need to fix the pier, you need to ensure that you know, that people are paid every month at the end of the day. You have emergencies, you have hurricanes, Hurricane Lisa cost us $150,000, you know, and that we never recover from those things at the end of the day. And the reality is that, you know, we struggle from day to day to ensure that we are able to pay this bill. The Belize Fund has come in and helped tremendously. They are right now paying the salaries of the enforcement team for the next 3 years for the Marine Protected Areas co-managers, right? That has been a significant shift, because if you have to put in a proposal every year to be able to try to cover these salaries, and then you put in a proposal and then it doesn't come through for a couple months, how do you pay these people at the end of the day? So there has to be consistency in funding to be able to do that. They're also funding some other projects as well for us that we have to do. We have to also, you know, at the end of the day, get the Protected Areas Trust to work in a similar fashion to be able to do this, because at the end of the day, those are our 2 national entities to be able to help to finance the space, and there's not enough funds to go around. at the end of the day. But if you're going to have impact, we cannot half-bake the cake at the end of the day. You either fully bake the cake or you don't bake the cake at all, because at the end of the day, you will have fishers screaming at you because you're not doing the job that you should be doing, right? So in the end, the reality is the consistency of funding and the quantum of funding that is needed to do this work. And when you talk about doing work with fishers, right, and this is another thing, right, that costs money, right? I can't expect a fisher to come to a meeting and I don't compensate him for the day, because he could have been making, I don't know, $100, $200 for that day at minimum, right? And so how do we reconcile with working with these fishers and having them at the table, right? Like, I can't pull him off a boat and say, that takes money at the end of the day. Engaging with community take money. If you're going to put in complementary livelihoods, that takes money, and it takes strategy, because it's over time it has shown that not all the complementary livelihood activities have been fruitful at the end of the day. There are very few that have been fruitful, and so we really have to ensure that we do our feasibility, that we look at how are we going to invest into the future to be able to do this. But for Belize, and the budget is coming up, right? We are a natural resource-based economy, and we have to invest in this space. If we don't invest in this space, we have a whole lot to lose, especially in the marine realm.
You spoke about. All right, we got to take a break. Then we're going to come back. This is Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes, Wednesday morning Reef Week edition. We'll be right back.
Enhanced
All right, welcome back to the WB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It is Wednesday, the 19th of March 2025, and Reef Week coverage continues here inside the WB. We have TASA in the house. Valma Andrade is here with us. Is here with us this morning as the Executive Director of TASA. And we've been discussing some of the challenges, some of the initiatives. Anytime you talk challenges, Balma, we have to talk money. And I think you kind of laid out some of the challenging aspect of it. I was not even conscious of the fact that there was funding being drawn out of the U.S. that has been suspended as a result of, you know who.
Yeah, it's millions of dollars. It's going to have impact globally, but for Belize, it's having an impact already, and those also co-finance other grants, right? And so that is important. I mean, when you look at, for example, Turf with $500 million Belize dollars annual revenue worth, $380 million coming from shoreline protection from the mangroves, $150 million plus coming from tourism, from Turf and all that it's connected with tourism. $7 million estimated value for blue carbon. I would say maybe $5 to $7 million in conch lobster and finfish, and we haven't estimated the value of deep sea fishery. When you look at the investment versus the revenue value or the economic value and potential for the people of Belize, it is important that we understand that, we are not talking about just managing a space for the fish and the reef and everything, right? It's about the ecosystems, it's about the commercial fishery, it's about the tourism fishery, it's about diving, but also it is about the economy, and this is how 15,000 people put food on their table at the end of the day. The fishing industry is about 6 to 7% of GDP, right? It's a foreign exchange earner. So the linkages to the economy is tremendous, and this is across our 175-mile long barrier reef at the end of the day, where people depend on this. And so that is important, an important aspect that we have to have people understand, and why it is important to ensure that we have management of these spaces. I think the most critical thing is that we have to ramp up management. For Turf, for example, we are seeing people, tourism stakeholders coming from the south to come and dive way in Turf, right? And what they say to us is, we're having serious issues in the south. How can we reconcile this, right? In areas that are not managed, because do have areas that are managed at the end of the day. And so those things, again, need serious attention. They need urgent attention. Again, this cannot wait for tomorrow. Right?
So give me a sense of the state, just an overall evaluation. We know that there's always a concern about encroachment in Turf, illegal fishing, and then always the threat of development. What do you think is the overall state of Turf?
For us, in our last Healthy Reefs Initiative study, and the studies that have come out from our adaptive management program, we are seeing definitely that, for example, with conch, we're still seeing significant recruitment, but a lot of juvenile conch. So we have to give the conch time to get to full maturity. Lobster, I think the general state, again, we have good recruitment at the end of the day. With finfish, we are still seeing a cross section of fish, but again, smaller sizes, and so there are certain management interventions that have been put in place by the Fisheries Department. For example, you can no longer take many of the grazers. So there's a longer list of the herbivores that eat the macroalgae off the reef to keep the balance, that have been protected. And so we have ensured, and that is why enforcement is important at the end of the day, and why we put a lot of emphasis on surveillance and presence and ensuring that we are able to manage. But we still have a lot of illegal incursions, right? I would say we are averaging about, 35 to 40 infractions per annum We are doing maybe about 7 to 15 arrests per annum that go through the courts. I know we are seeing those court cases drag out over the years, which cost us, right? Because at the end of the day now, the fishers are layering up, and we have to ensure that we respond and ensure that the cases are closed in court. With respect to the reef, we have moved to a fair position, but what we are seeing is that coral bleaching, the warming of the temperatures are ramping up. And so our adaptive management team has been doing a coral assessment of the entire atoll. They are about to culminate that study to be able to see where are the resilient corals and how are we going to program a coral restoration program. What will that mean? So that information will need to be taken to the coral experts to be able to say, okay, we need to restore in these areas and these species because these are the ones that are more resilient. This has been funded by MARFund through a parametric insurance program. So when Lisa came through, we got a payout, and we have been using those funds to ensure that we look at how do we do this. And what is the importance of that? The importance of that is if you don't have a coral reef, you don't have a fishery. And if you don't have a fishery, you don't have tourism. And because people come to see fish, right? They come to engage with people and fish at the end of the day. And so that is the importance of doing that. So we have been piloting this parametric insurance program. So the idea is when a hurricane comes through and it meets certain parameters within that space, we get a payout to work on the reef to be able to ensure that we are able to, for that coral reef to rebound so that you have the fisheries, so that you have the tourism to be able to continue in perpetuity. The idea now is to look at the entire resilience of the area and how do we build ahead of that storm at the end of the day. So we have perhaps have some coral to give, but we are still in nascent stages of that. So to me, the state of play, Mose, is basically saying you have to manage. You have to be serious about manage, and all hands on deck. This cannot be only about an NGO. Turnef doesn't belong to TASA. Turnef belongs to the people of Belize. It belongs to the fishers. It belongs to the tourism stakeholders. So when we are enforcing, whether it's enforcing on tourism stakeholders or enforcing on fishing stakeholders, it's because we are protecting this resource for the people of Belize, right? And so once we understand that, but the state of play is that there are, in the next short order, in the next couple of years, we have to make some critical decisions on how we manage the space.
All right. Well, we definitely want to, wish you all the best. We know how important the work is because we understand the importance of Turnef, the immense value that it has for us. We're not even talking about the protection that it provides, just from the standpoint of the threats of storms, and it's just an incredibly valuable place, strategic value, and the work that has to go into making sure that it continues to provide all the boxes that it ticks. That's heavy lifting, and so we are very thankful that TASA came by. If there's any final thought you want to share with our listeners and viewers, you can go ahead.
Sure, and for Belize City, Turnef is your insurance program, right? I have that discussion to have with the mayor yet. At the end of the day, it is your insurance program. That Turnef, when Hurricane Lisa came, it came straight through Turnef, and that is what dissipated the impacts. And you still had impacts on Belize City, so that dissipated tremendously. Again, I want to thank all the Marine Protected Areas co-managers and managers and the government departments that work in this space that do this work on a day-to-day basis with very limited resources. We have to continue to build capacity to do this. But I also want to thank my team because they started the Reef Week, and Ridge to Reef, that's significant for me. When I worked at Belize Audubon, you saw that connection, right? From Crooked Tree to the reef, from the mountains to the reef, we are connected by 18 major river watersheds. And we have to be conscious of this, that not because if you release an ideal bag in Benke, it ends up at the reef at some point, or it ends up creating issues for somebody. But our team has been doing community outreach at Chunush SDA Primary. They kicked off with a positive impact, organizing a cleanup. There, they collected 66 pounds of garbage with the kids. And to make it fun, they engaged and featured a scavenger hunt. They have a storytelling competition that they're doing for the kids from age 9 to 12 from 6 stakeholder communities. And the children are challenged to craft stories centered around building from ridge to reef. And the competition encourages creativity while raising awareness about the reef conservation, and winners will take home cash prizes, right? Again, to encourage the kids. Arts and crafts session with Salvation Army Primary School. We brought a hands-on learning experience with children age 7 at Salvation Army. And when the TASA team was walking out, one of the kids said, you know, like all our good Belize City kids, they say, that was the best experience I ever had. I will never forget this day, right? Because again, this is nothing like preparing the next generation, because you and I noticed we get a little bit gray down there.
A lot, sir.
Down there. You know, again, it's from caring too much. At least 5 to 14 kids had right now. As TASA, the team will be walking outdoor with at least 5 of the 14 kids had parents who was a fisher or other relatives with fishers, right? And that's the situation with Belize City. That's why we engage Belize City heavy, because a lot of kids, their parents have fishers, right? A significant percentage of them. And then we have a Saving Carry the Queen Conch storytelling event at Salvation Army. We are at the we are going to actually be debuting Carry the Queen Conch mascot at the fair, right? Again, we had this competition internally about which mascots, and Carry was one of the mascots that was chosen, and so we will be unveiling that and unveiling a new educational T-shirt, visual appealing. So stop by the booth, get a T-shirt.
Out west?
Out west.
All right, my brother.
But again, as always, Mose, I thank you for keeping pushing here. I understand you're already programming for next year.
Yes, we have plans in place.
So again, you're always invited to come to Turn F and see the state of play for yourself. You're a Belizean, you should be checking up on these things.
Beautiful Turn F.
Yes.
All right, we're going to thank you for joining us, and all the best to TASA and yourself.
Thank you, and all the best to my team. I really appreciate all the dedication and the commitment that they have to this work. They're all Belizeans.
All right. Happy Reef Week, Belize.
En Belice valoramos
All right, welcome back to the WB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes on this beautiful Wednesday morning, 19 March 2025. We are not in studio, obviously. You know, there's no way there are boats flying behind my chair when I'm in the studio back at the zinc fence. That's what our reality is on this morning. And that's what it will be for the remainder of the week as we have been celebrating Reef Week 2025. It's something we do annually. Usually it's right after the 9th of March weekend. But this year we had the delay, election of course, so we had to back it up. But since Monday, we've been here on location, Spooner's Reggae Cafe. It's on North Front Street, the main entrance. But on the back veranda, back porch, back pier, there is the Haluva Creek. And so we have been enjoying this ambience every morning, and we hope that you have been as well. The week, of course, has been busy with guests and will continue to be that way tomorrow and Friday, and we want to make sure that you are planning your schedule to link with us and enjoy it. We want to highlight that the conversations have been held under the theme Building Resilience from Ridge to the Reef. That is the Reef Week theme for 2025. There is going to be a reef fair, but it's going to be held out in San Ignacio and out west. So we invite you folks to go out there on Friday. That's when it's usually held. And you're going to get more information about that come Friday morning. So look forward to get that. We have been running a bit late with our breaks, and so we have to jump into a break. But before we do that, let me just quickly mention that our sponsors for this coverage includes Atlantic Bank. We also have sponsoring us this morning and all the Reef Week mornings, Benny's Home Center, Central Bank of Belize, CG United, Freetown Drugstore, Port of Belize, Wildlife Conservation Society, Oceana, Marlon Castillo Quality Meats, Human Dignity Trust, Design Depot, and World Wildlife Fund. Those are our main sponsors. We want to thank them. Without their support, of course, we would not be able to bring you this coverage. You know, that's just the way it works. When we come out at the studio, there are costs, so we have to have support. We have to have our sponsors come in, and those are the sponsors who are making it all possible this Reef Week 2025. We're going to take a final break of the morning.
Enhanced service and faster
We want to thank you all for being here with us. We hope that you had an enjoyable morning starting your Wednesday. We invite you back tomorrow morning if you have the strength and health at 6:30 for Thursday morning edition of Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes Reef Week Style. We want to thank the management of Spooner's Reggae Cafe here on North Front Street for accommodating us. We've got to salute the team. Firstly, those who are back at the zinc. Larry G at Creme Radio, Alexi Belisle in the control room at XTV, out on location. We have with us the glue, Mr. Cliff Lewis, our director Harlan Wagner, our assistant producer Ayanna Leslie, and of course we did have Brick City come by and give us moral support as always, Manserina Hood. As always, stand strong, stand firm, happy Reef Week. For now, we're gone!
Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show by people. Belize our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel left out. Is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a nation. We are the people.